Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to today's Sufi teachings. This Sufi teaching series we call Community Connection occurs on the first Sunday of every month at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Time. It is organized and underwritten by Sufi Center Minnesota with the intention of making the Sufi teachings of peace, love, mercy, justice, freedom, and beauty available to people everywhere. We acknowledge that the land Sufi Center is located on is the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Dakota and Mdewakanton tribes. Sufi Center Minnesota recognizes and respects the enduring relationship that exists between many indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands. We're excited and grateful to have Dr. Nura Leonor Murciano-Luna with us today. Nura is a holistic doctor, spiritual healer, teacher, writer, and artist. She spent the last 30 years exploring healing from the intersection of psychology, somatic-body wisdom, traditional esoteric and mystical traditions. Her own personal journey and near-death experience at the beginning of life instilled in her the desire to explore the mystical world while searching for healing for herself and her lineage. She teaches worldwide through workshops, personal and group retreats, books, art, medicine songs, and bee medicine. She is the founder of the Feminine Path, Conscious Feminine Medicine nonprofit organization, Mother's Hive Medicinals, and the mother of 3 young adult women. Her teaching today is voice alchemy. Nura, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Wow, thank you. Wonderful. So I'd like to begin today. We're going to be doing a lot of different experientials. We're going to talk a little bit first, but I'd like to begin with doing the Fatiha. And I'd also like to introduce my cat because she's going to be jumping around. Can't avoid it. She's just helping us raise the frequency. So let's just begin with the Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim. Ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. Amen. And so thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be here and to share what I've learned about sound and why I love sound so much and using our voice. And so to begin, I'm going to do a little invocation with the drum. This is a big drum, as you can see. You probably can't see the whole thing because I can't move the camera back enough. This is a big drum, and I'm just going to do an invocation to clear and create, even kind of tune into more sacred space around us. And as I do that, just kind of tune in and feel what you feel in your bodies, what you feel in your heart, what you feel within yourself as I'm doing that. And thus begins our little journey with sound and with our voice. And so thank you again, everyone. And I want to start with really taking everybody into like a 5-minute process with sound and with your own voice to begin with. And then we can talk a little bit about it, give a little bit more context and information, because I know that we love to know, our minds always wants to know and understand. And then I want to end with a little bit of time to go into and kind of play around with our own voice and use it in different ways. I know most of this community is used to doing chants and working with sickers and using sound as a transformational tool. So what I'd like to share today is really how to understand that even a little bit deeper, and to have some other tools that we can use, including our own voice, in for healing and for activation of our soul's light, for activation of our divine nature, and to be able to kind of come into that oneness with the love, with our essence and with the love. So if you will indulge me for the next few minutes, I'm going to actually do a song, what I call the medicine song, which is really a way, I use the drum a lot, and it's a way for us to transform the places within us that are in separation, the places that we experience as pain. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that after, but I just want to kind of start with this process. And I use the drum because the drum is actually an ancient tool that's been used since, it's been documented at least 28,000 years ago. So used in all different ways for ceremony, for ritual, for healing. And it connects us in many ways with our lineage, with our ancestors, and with the aspect of that light, that primordial light that moves through all of the generations and all of us. And it's also a reminder of, our mother's heartbeat, which is the first thing that we hear when we're born, right? So it's like the drum is really bringing us back into that oneness. So in many ways, it's very powerful that way. And to be able to sing with the drum, to be able to sound, because I don't like the word singing, because we think of singing as performative singing. So it's like when we all do our all weird and we chant, that kind of sounding, which is really about using sound as vibrational frequency, right? As medicine. So when we sound into the drum in a way where we're kind of calling in, all the light of our lineage and connecting with our lineage, and also bringing in the frequencies and the vibrations to kind of cut through and transform and transmute the denser aspects of our being. So I'm going to do a little medicine song, and we're going to kind of break that up. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But what I want you all to do, if you feel comfortable, is to, while I'm doing this medicine song, which is just me using vowels and tones and not using regular language or any established language. We're kind of going back to just sounds, because that's kind of the way that we can express the most these aspects of ourselves, whatever we're trying to transmit. And when we start to use words, we actually start to kind of go more into our heads and more into our intellectual faculty. And we don't want to do that. We want to stay in the in the feeling, sensing, listening, more intuitive aspect of our being. So I want to invite all of you, while I am doing this medicine song, to just kind of close your eyes and just start to feel and sense, and start to use humming, just regular humming, whatever sound, whatever tone feels right for you. Everybody's muted, so no one's gonna be listening unless you're in the same space with someone. And just allow yourself to hum, and to kind of hum into the frequency of what you're receiving through this medicine song, what you're feeling, what is arising for you, and see if you can just hum into that. Okay, and I'm going to be humming with you a little bit through this medicine song. All right, so everybody close your eyes and just kind of take a couple of deep breaths. And just feel your body against whatever you're sitting on. Feel the earth underneath you. Feel your body rooted into the earth, feeling safe. And then bring your awareness to your heart. And just take a couple of deep breaths there. And remember, there's no right, there's no wrong. We're just going to allow your exhales to have some sound to them, to have some humming. And you're just going to tune in, you're going to listen, and you're going to follow. Like letting your being follow what wants to come through you in response to the sound. And just notice what's moving in your heart at this moment. Beautiful. And so, I'm just curious to know, I don't know if we can open up the mic and just in a word or two, how did people experience that? How did you experience that?
If you'd like to raise your hand, go ahead and, oh, Salima, go ahead, Salima.
Energizing,
Mm.
enlivening.
Beautiful.
Deborah, go ahead, please.
Freeing and traveling.
Freeing, beautiful.
Layla.
Felt like I was being cradled.
Oh, anybody else? Okay, beautiful. So those are actually some of the qualities of sound and it's qualities that it can be transmitted through sound, through voice. You know, it has the ability to free ourselves. You know, one of the most powerful aspects of sound is that it can, you know, as vibration, as frequency, it actually can, it moves into the denser vibrations, which are usually, we experience them as pain, can be trauma, personal or collective trauma that we're carrying in our being, these parts of ourselves that are still exiled from the love, from our essence. And when we use our voice, when we use sound, and I know, again, that a lot of us are used to using the qualities in this way, but we're going to work with that a little bit differently today. But when we use sound, the sound of our voice to penetrate these places, directed at these places, especially, you know, we're holding and we're feeling it in our body, we're feeling the constriction in our body, it has the ability to free us. It has the ability to actually bring that light and that love into that place that so desperately wants the love. And that's part of the healing process that we experience with sound. Somebody mentioned something else at the beginning that I don't remember right now that I wanted to touch on, but the transformation. So sound and using our voice in this way can heal, as I mentioned before, activate and transform and transmute these denser places within us, and it can connect us with our soul. So I want to do some work around using our voice, and not just humming, but also using our voice into the places and as the places that we can express the constrictions, you know, the places of constrictions that we feel within us. That's one way that I use sound very effectively in our groups to transform them. So if we think of our voice as this unique way that we express into the world, right? What we say, what we don't say, our voice is really, it's as unique as our fingerprint in many ways. There's nobody else that expresses the same way, or that can express the same way with our voice. So realizing that, how we feel. So for most of us, and that's definitely been my journey, my voice, there was many ways in which I felt very blocked in my own ability to speak. I had a lot of issues and still do. Many have healed, but I've been through a lot with thyroid issues and how it manifests when we have our voice blocked. And so our voice is kind of carrying, it's the way that we interface with the world in many ways. And when we feel, whatever our issues are, and most of us, have experienced issues about really expressing ourselves fully, especially, in our divine nature and with our intuitive nature. And these things in our culture have not really been, we don't live in a culture that accepts this 100%. So most of us have some kind of issue in our speaking our truth, or even in our worthiness, or feeling like it's important enough to voice, important enough to bring through. And so using our voice to break through these patterns that we all carry is really, really powerful, because once we can see our voice as kind of like a really an aspect of ourselves. And so the more that we are blocked in these gateways, not just in our throat, but it could be anywhere in our body, as we know, we hold it in all different places, these patterns, the way in which, when we're working with this energy and when we're working with our voice, it can actually liberate us completely. And so I want to really dive into that a little bit today and give us a little bit of time to work with that, rather than really talking about it and too much of that time. There are things that I wanted to say in terms of the science of the voice. There's a lot of studies and there's a lot of science that shows that using our voice is even more powerful than using music, to work with, collective trauma and to change the neurobiology, for example, to move into the parasympathetic nervous system. So it helps with things like anxiety, and it helps with, depression. It helps on the emotional level. It also helps with lungs and our respiration, our nervous system, our memory. There's a lot of research that has gone into this and shows all of these benefits of using our voice, just singing, just toning, the sound of our voice. And, we started with looking at it on a spiritual level, because I feel like that's, a lot of us here really, really want that peace and are interested in really growing and healing. But simultaneously, it also creates all of these changes physically and emotionally, which is pretty amazing, because it reduces, the voice has the ability to reduce stress. And if you reduce stress, then of course you're going to affect the physical body, because most diseases, disorders, and imbalances are created from what we call stress, right? Which we also call patterns and, trauma and things like that. So the voice has the ability to actually shift that. There also has been studies done with the voice and our immune system, which I think it's fascinating, because there's so many issues with our immune, and so many people have this diagnosed immune issues that come out in all sorts of ways, that affects our digestive, that affects our reproductive system, that affects our respiratory, and so that's really been a focus in the last few years with everything that we've been going through. So studies have shown also that that I already mentioned the anxiety and the depression, but also for PTSD and dementia and autism, and all of these ways in which using your voice, not just music, but using your voice in a way that is a singing way, to sing, not just speaking, but to sing, really helps with all of these different conditions on a physical level. And that's really powerful to know, and good to know that the science is actually meeting what we've known on many levels, because most of the spiritual traditions and spiritual and mystical traditions have used voice, for healing, for connecting to our divine dimension and to activate that within us. Most have used chants and all sorts of different ways of using sound. So this is part of that alchemical power that sound has, in this way. So let's I'm just going to go into the processes, because I know we only have an hour. So let's go into the process. And I want to first, we're going to be doing a process with just kind of the sounding that I did, which is just what I call primordial sound. It's not words, it's just sound. It's just feeling and tuning in and allowing ourselves to sound. But before we do that, I want to go into 3 sounds. We're going to kind of do a little bit of a warm up, right? We're going to do a sound that involves our 3 different areas, which are our womb space, or sacral womb space, which is our abdomen area. And then we're going to go into our hearts, and then we're going to go into our heads. Okay, so those are the 3 focuses, and we're going to sound from there. Okay, we're going to do very specific sound, and I'm going to walk you through this. And all I want you to do as you're doing this sound is kind of go inward and just notice what you see, what you feel, what arises. So we're not going to really go into really allowing that to unravel whatever is there. You surely can do that later with these specific sounds. But for right now, I'm just going to kind of walk you through that and just explore what you're noticing in that area. So, all right. So let yourself just close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Use the other drum. Playing around with my drums here. So the first sound we're going to do, and if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and let yourself just feel, bring your hands into your lower abdomen. Lower abdomen, that whole pelvic cavity. And we're going to use the sound ooh. We're just going to use ooh as a sound. And we're going to sound that a few times. And then after we sound that, we're just going to kind of go into silence. And all you're going to do is feel. And feel what's there, pleasant or unpleasant. Just allowing yourself to connect, to come into deeper intimacy with that whole place in your body and what that's connected to. Okay. Last one. move to our heart. I'm going to bring our hands to our heart. We're going to do the sound ah, which you're very familiar with. Last one. Go into our head, to our head womb. And we're going to do the sound E. And our head womb is where we have all of these thoughts, these neural pathways. We have new ones being cultivated every day. Here we go. Just breathe. And just breathing and noticing. And just noticing what you notice. How did those places feel different? How did those sounds affect you differently? What opened? What moved? What did you become aware of? And just hold it all in mercy and love. And acceptance. Beautiful. And now we're going to go right into a process of, we're going to sound from the place of constriction. If there's anything that's been challenging you, if there's a question in your heart, is there something that's unresolved? It can be anything at all. And so I'm going to lead you through a little bit of a process to kind of connect with that in our hearts and use sound in a way that's transformational, even though these other ways have been, but where you can directly go into the question or the challenge or the constriction, right? Directly into the Jalal place and bring in the sound. And what I want you to envision is that you connect, we're going to be connecting with this place of constriction, if there is any, hopefully there is. And not your biggest issue, please, because we're only going to do this for a few minutes. So I don't want to leave anybody hanging. Pick something that's, that's kind of bothersome, but, something that you'd like to bring some love into within yourself. And I'd like you to envision that as you're sounding, you're actually allowing that place to sound, right? So let's just say it's a fear, a small fear, and we're going to allow that, or it might be some grief that's unresolved that you've connected with recently, or it might be a place where you feel where you recognize maybe even today that you don't feel safe in speaking your truth in certain places. So it's like letting that place sound, right? Letting that place sound. And you're just going to tune into that, and whatever comes through. So when we're sounding, this is going to be sounding without words, without English words or any other language. And it's just whatever vowel, whatever tone, like what I was doing in the medicine song, right? It's just allowing this primordial sound to come through. And just allowing, we're listening and we're allowing. And again, it's not performative sound or singing. It's just kind of, opening up our mouths as we exhale and letting the sound come through, whatever it is. And you might be surprised of how much you actually have to say, how much wants to come through in that place. Okay, so I'm going to lead you into a little bit of a process with that. So again, let's go into our hearts. Now, if it helps to bring your hand there, you can bring your hand, and if not, that's fine. Whatever works for you. Breathing, allowing, and bringing some breath to that place in your heart. And before we dive into the place of constriction, let's just first notice the love that's here, the love that's all around us, the divine that's in our breath, the essence, the beauty, the love, the mercy that's already here, that's already present. And just take a couple of deep breaths with that. And then really knowing that whatever place of constriction arises for us as we do this, it's that part of us that needs the love, that part that unresolved trauma, unresolved expression, unresolved pattern, an aspect of us or of our lineage that hasn't received the love. And we're going to let it express from that place. It's like giving ourselves permission to express the pain, the sadness, the constriction into the ocean of love that's all around us, it's within us, around us, that we're held in. And so just noticing in your heart or in your body what would be a place that needs the love in my being? Maybe you feel a constriction somewhere in your body. Maybe there's a tightness. Maybe there's an emotional place within you that you recognize. Just allowing yourself to feel that in this moment. And just letting yourself feel, see, sense the constriction, letting yourself become a little bit, going right up to that edge and coming a little bit more intimate with it. Yeah, and letting yourself express it. And I'm going to be sounding, but at some moments I'm going to be silent so that my sound doesn't get in the way of your sound. And you can sound, and if there's moments of silence, that's okay too. It's like just see what, it's like follow your rhythm. Follow your rhythm of sound and silence, sound and silence. And we're sounding, expressing with the intention of opening it up to the love. Your turn. It's like you're telling the divine what you're feeling in that place. You're sharing the heartbreak, the pain. When you find a stopping point, just pause and breathe. Breathe in the love. And if there's more to say, let yourself say it. any qualities you'd like to bring in, go ahead and do that for yourself now. Yeah, and so just feel your hearts in this moment. And then just feel your whole body. And just notice where you're at. Hmm. Feels like the pre-work to the zikr, right? Ah, beautiful. So there's so much more I could say, but I feel like I got the experience in, and that's really what I wanted, everybody to have. And yeah, and if you'd like to explore that and make that part of your spiritual practice of working with and transforming these parts of yourself, transforming the aspects of our trauma that we carry, and bringing and expanding our light and our love that we are, right? So I'd like to use the last few minutes that we have for anything that anybody would like to share or any questions. I know we only have a few minutes left, but kind of
Go ahead and either raise your hand or unmute yourself. We have a good group here. So if you'd like to speak, Deborah first and then Alima.
Okay. Thank you very much for this this musical Dharma. Yeah. You know what, I could feel the many places where it's constriction. In my here, get out music or sound from here was a battle. And it's somewhat in the heart. It was like it wants to sing, but it's difficult.
yeah.
And then in the wound area, a deep sound came out very easily, very deep, easy. I would love to explore more of this. Is it something that one can practice on their own?
Absolutely. I feel like you can, I know I can send out actually a sheet of the 3 sounds and using the 3, it's called differently in different traditions, but the wombs, we call them the wombs for men and women, energetic wombs. And I can send that out through Pat for the recording, and you can practice that on your own and practice the 3 sounds. And it's almost like letting it guide you, right? Letting it guide you, because that's the intelligence of your being guiding you, the divine guiding you. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome. And there'll be some more information also in exploring this deeper with some projects that I have ongoing afterwards. Yeah.
you. Okay.
Thank you, Deborah. Alima, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's a couple of things that really kind of blew open for me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, that blew open. One of them was when you were, just asked for us to talk into that space. And it reminded me of babies babbling and really, as a mother, understanding what was being said,
Right.
just through just through those tones. So at
Right.
first, I used to think that, when I heard sounds like that they had some meaning behind them, but they're sounds. So that was really interesting. And then the second thing I wanted to ask you about was just that at the end of it, I did feel almost like a folding going on in my back.
Mm.
I, and I don't know what it was, but it was just, it was just like a very physical action that was kind of going on in my back and my lungs. And so just really to know what to do with that, or just to continue with those sounds.
That's, yeah. And we don't always know, right? So there's so much going on and so much like alchemizing and metabolizing, because sound and vibration and frequency, and it's like bringing, what sound, in my experience, what it does is it's like it brings us, it'll clear, just like, the all weird clears, and that's sound, right? Just like, the astaghfirullah, it starts to clear. And we just trust the light and just kind of follow and allow. And we don't have to understand unless we receive the guidance,
Okay.
of what that is. And sometimes that'll come if it's important, and sometimes it's just things reorganizing, because there's so much that's reorganizing on all levels, right? On your neurology, your hormones, your chemicals, the organ systems, the meridians, the channels. Like there's so much happening because everything is vibration, right?
Yeah,
And we're also like 70% water, so we're we're like your whole being and your body and your physical body and everything in between is shifting if we allow it. That's the magic, the alchemy.
And I was going to just say one more thing, that's actually how the divine names, when we're reciting them, must work as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
lovely. And as you've been speaking, there's been more and more opening. So thank you. I'll just carry on
Yeah,
with that.
just keep, yes, beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Alima. Salam, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Aisha wants to say something. Thank you so much. That was so healing for me. Most of the people on the call know that I saw my cousin get hit when we were 4, and I blame myself, and thanks to the Sufis, I've healed that. But during the last exercise or experience, I felt the anger and the holding back, because nobody told me when he was in the hospital for weeks, and I didn't know what was happening to my buddy, how he was he going to live, was he going to come home? And it was just excruciating pain, and I didn't dare to ask, and they didn't share, so there was frustration on both sides. And when you went to the heart at the end, when you started speaking, I started, all of a sudden I wanted to start tapping, and I was frustrated, angry at me and them, and I just kept tapping and tapping and like yelling inside myself. But then I was just tapping on my chest, and then I started tapping the points of EFT.
Mm-hmm.
Started saying Agafur, Agafar, Yatawab, Yafu. And I kept saying them over and over and over and over. And then I started saying Wadu, Wadu, Wadu. And then when you were ending it, it came up, Yahak, Yahak, Yahak. Thank you so much. I really needed that.
Aw.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could feel anger coming in, but it's too short of a class to bring that one up. So thank you for mentioning it. And so yeah, it's like, all these places are, going to come up. So, yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I'm glad you moved through that. Beautiful. Thank you.
So it doesn't appear that we have any other questions. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with, Nura?
Well, I think, no, I just want to say thank you all for kind of diving in and exploring how sound and the use of your voice and how to free that and work with that, indulging me in this whole process. It's been really powerful for my own journey. And I really started using it about 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I feel like it really is an accelerated way of healing. It really is pretty magical, and it's pretty fast too. And so that's it. I'm going to be sending some things through, and hopefully you can always reach out to me on my website and thefemininepath.com, and you'll have all that information through Pat later. So thank you.
We'll
you
put
all.
the links in the show notes and include the information that she sends us so that you all have it.
Yeah, and I'll send some diagrams and some things for you all to work with.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah,
Thanks very
wonderful.
much.
Thank you. Many blessings.